Growing hydroponic crops inside a greenhouse gives us an advantage from growing them outdoors because the greenhouse itself helps prevent many of the insects and other problems from coming into the greenhouse. Richard, I know you've had a lot of experience in managing these greenhouse crops and the pests that are associated with them. Tell us a little bit of the tips that might help us to manage these pests when they do get in the greenhouse.
Well, in a greenhouse situation, you have to view the exclusion as your first line of defense. In other words, keeping the insects out of the greenhouse so you don't even have to worry about managing them inside. And probably one of the most critical areas is a good screen system on the intake air where the air is brought into the greenhouse. This needs to be a fairly fine mesh to keep out the small insects, and of course it'll keep out the large insects as well. Having an airlock on the main entranceway to the greenhouse is very useful because it provides an extra layer of defense against having any insects slipping in that way. And of course, in an airlock, you usually have a foot bath to help with some diseases that you might bring into the greenhouse.
Richard, I know you and I have both been in greenhouses where a lot of times the growers have some favorite house plants and other things that they want to bring into the greenhouse and perhaps grow over the winter, and a lot of times that breaks that exclusion barrier that we've set up. So I know that it's not a good idea to bring other non-crop plants into the greenhouse because of the risk of what they might have on them when we bring them into the house. What are some of the other tips that might be associated once we get in the greenhouse, some things that we can do as general techniques to help us in reducing the problems with these pests?
Well, one thing is to keeping the weed population down, or eliminate weeds in the greenhouse under the benches or along the walls. This is very important because oftentimes those weeds can serve not only as an insect a host for insects, but also for diseases. No smoking in greenhouses is an obvious one where you can introduce a lot of the plant diseases that way. And then once you're done with the crop in a greenhouse, to clean it up as soon as possible, because undoubtedly you're going to be coming back into that same greenhouse with a future crop, and you don't want to be carrying over insect pests from one crop to another.
Those sound like excellent tips to me, Richard, and we want to try to utilize the greenhouse to its fullest advantage, and by having the greenhouse structure we can eliminate these pests. We don't have to deal with them as much as we do in the outside production area, but once they get in, we're going to have to deal with them. So if we can prevent them from ever coming into the greenhouse initially, that sounds like the best line of defense that we can start with. And I appreciate those excellent tips for helping us manage these pests inside the greenhouse.